Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Chaska City Council meeting for Monday, May 19th, 2025. Can we all, at 7 o'clock, can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Elise, will you call roll, please?
Councilmember Hatfield.
Here.
Councilmember Benish.
Here.
Councilmember Shevlin. Councilmember McGraw.
Here.
Mayor Hubbard.
Here. All right, next we have adoption of the agenda. Are there any corrections or additions to the agenda? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
All right.
Second.
All right, I got a first from Councilmember Hatfield and second from Councilmember Benish. And all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, agenda is adopted. Next, we have visitor presentation. If anybody here in the audience is here to come up and talk to the council, you certainly can at this time, unless if you're on the agenda, you can sit tight. But I don't see anything on the agenda. All right, last call. Okay. Moving right along, we have approval of previous meeting minutes from May 5th, 2025. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Benish,
Second.
and a second by Councilmember Hatfield. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Moving along to our consent items. We have a few here, and consent items are items that receive really little to no discussion unless someone wants to pull something off on the consent agenda. We can have more of a discussion, but does anybody have any questions?
No discussion. I just want to confirm that I was reading it correctly, that the licenses that had a note in the contingencies, so they're approved with those contingencies. So they still have maybe a missing piece.
Yeah.
But once they get that in there, okay.
Yeah, and one of the reasons for doing that is that, you know, the licenses don't technically start until July 1st, which is the state's calendar year. It just gives people a chance to do it without having to tie into the council schedule.
Okay. Perfect. That was my only question. Motion to approve consent?
All right, I've got a motion from Councilmember Hatfield.
Second.
And a second from Councilmember Grah. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Consent items are approved. All right, moving right along. You can stay or you can always go too. Moving right along to our action items. 8A, adopt resolution number 2025-27 and ordinance number 1060 approving the preliminary site and building plan, preliminary plat, and rezoning for EDCO/Pope Design Group/PC number 2025-08.
Mayor and Councilmember, this is an item coming out of the Planning Commission with a recommendation for approval. This is one that we have seen before in concept, and now we're moving into preliminary more of the details of design. I should point out that as part of this whole process, we're also sort of simultaneously working on the road improvements to Creek Road, as well as the utility improvements that will occur along with this project. So that's something that we're actively in the process of doing to make sure that we match up with EDCO's timeline for moving in, which actually matches up really well with our timeline for our municipal service building, which will also be out there too. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Liz, and she can go through her presentation.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Mayor and council members. We have a preliminary site and building plan, preliminary plat, and rezoning request this evening for EDCO proposed on Creek Road. The applicant is Pope Design Group. The site in question is located directly north of Creek Road on kind of the western edge of the city of Chaska limits. There's other industrial properties that immediately abut the eastern side of this property, and then southeast of this site is the future municipal services building that Matt mentioned. We have rural residential to the south across Creek Road, and then immediately west of the site is what is Dahlgren Township and additional rural residential properties. And then immediately northwest of the site is what is considered Laketown Township. And then north is Engler Boulevard and additional industrial properties. So we're at the second step. So this is the preliminary step in the process. There's still another step following this one, which would come to Planning Commission and Council. But this step gets into more of the technical details, such as civil and architectural, stormwater, wetland, those sort of things. EDCO is a current business that operates out of Hopkins. One of their facilities there will be the one moving to this site in Chaska, which will house more of their office and warehousing, manufacturing portion of their business. They specialize in metal fabrication, specifically in exterior building materials like roofing and siding. Just in terms of previous approvals, it was in January that they held their neighborhood meeting, and that was shortly before their concept plan. And then March 2025 is when their concept plan was approved with us. The site in question is roughly 28 acres in size. It's zoned rural residential or RR2 today. It's currently vacant farmland that's been farmed for several years. There are wetlands that exist on site, both on the north and south sides, that they're showing to avoid in their overall site plan, with some minor impacts with a secondary access. The property immediately west, again, is a rural residential property that is within the Dahlgren Township area, and it operates as a residence. There's also a 2.8 acre parcel just immediately northwest of the site that'll kind of come into play a little bit later on in my presentation. But EDCO is planning to purchase the 28 acres for their facility, but they also are purchasing that 2.8 acre Haskin parcel as well, which was a part of the purchase agreement. Just a few views looking into the site, both from Engler Boulevard and Creek Road. This view from Engler Boulevard does have a pretty mature row of significant trees along that edge. And then it's more open kind of on the view looking from Creek Road, looking north. So the current request, again, is for preliminary site and building plan, which is specifically entailing a new building that's totaling 235,000 square feet and 34 feet in height. They're also showing a building expansion area up to 120,000 square feet. In addition to that, they are proposing parking around the building that'll total 312 parking stalls for the building. I'll get into what they're building initially later on. This building will also house a total of 155 employees for the EDCO business. The second part of the request is a preliminary plat. So this lot is currently an outlot from a former subdivision, so they are required to plat this into a buildable lot as a part of this request. So they are doing that as a part of the preliminary and final. The third part of the request is a rezoning. So rezoning from the rural residential category to a category more appropriate for the use, which will be a planned industrial district, PID 12 to be exact. So a snippet of the comp plan is shown on this screen here, and it's guided for business parks. So the use for a industrial office type user is consistent with that guidance. This is the preliminary site plan with an aerial overlay just to show relevance for what's being proposed and the adjacencies. So it's a rectangular building, again, 235,000 square feet total. It's pretty much centered in the site in between kind of those known wetlands on the north and south sides. The 120,000 square foot building addition is on the east side of that 235,000 square foot build. So they're leaving room for that to occur. Primary access will come from the southwest of the site off of Creek Road, and that's where utilities will also stub in from, is off of that main access point. Utilities will be extended up Creek Road from the roundabout at Creek Road and Chaska Creek Boulevard up to this point here. There's a secondary access point that's shown. I'll show another exhibit following this slide where that is exactly, but it's basically on the eastern side of the site that will primarily operate as a truck access, direct access to the shipping yard or loading dock space. The parking is situated on the west side of the site and where the main entrance is, which is on the northwest side of the building. So they are showing a total of 312 parking stalls. 192 of those will be built with the onset of the building, and then 120 of those are shown as proof of parking, so they won't be constructed immediately, but will be there for the future when needed. Based on the future square footage of the building, they will still need to show 29 more stalls to meet the city's parking code for future build-out. With 155 employees, the 192 initial construction does appear to be sufficient for the onset and gives them a good buffer amount as well for future expansion. The truck quantity per day is roughly 10 to 12 trucks to bring product from their facility to other facilities or their ultimate destination. In the concept plan, we did note the relocation of the loading dock door to occur on the southeast side. Before they were showing it on the northeast side of the building, fronting Engler Boulevard. So they did make that change in this preliminary submittal to reorient that loading dock to the southeast side, which will also have more direct access off of Creek Road. With it moving to the southeast side, screening was kind of the most significant piece that will need to be looked at with this, which I'll show in their landscape plan later on. One thing we also noted during the concept plan is the access potential to the 2.8 acre Haskin parcel northwest of this site, and hence why they've chosen to purchase that parcel is to better control access opportunities in the future anticipation for that parcel. One thing that was noted is access potential on Creek Road during the concept plan. There were some comments received from Carver County, but also from a staff standpoint of how access spacing would be achieved on Creek Road, specifically on the north side for these remaining parcels immediately west of EDCO site, just leaving the potential to have multiple options there for access in the future when these two parcels are ready to develop is really the comment or the reason for that comment in the concept plan. So they did show a potential access opportunity through their site that is preserved on their site, but because the 2.8 acre parcel doesn't immediately abut this parcel, access would obviously have to be achieved with the 4880 Creek Road parcel as well, or be looked at the same time that parcel is ready for development. And Matt mentioned also the improvements that are starting to take shape with Creek Road. It's currently a rural section roadway, so it doesn't have any curb and gutter today. So The plan is to upgrade that to an urban section roadway, as well as working with designing the utility corridor through there as well. So that is actively happening as we're taking a look at the site planning for EDCO's site. This is just the site plan again. That secondary access is here on that eastern side. One of the things that was significant or important during the concept plan was making sure that screening was adequately achieved, both on the west side of the site and the south side of the site with the reorientation of the loading dock, ensuring that those spaces were screened from view, the parking lot and some of the building from the neighboring residents to the west, and then the loading dock from the views from Creek Road to the south. They are showing some berming along the west side, but it does start to taper off on the northwest portion of the site. So there is a comment or condition of approval for that to be further evaluated into their final, to include additional landscaping and berming opportunity there to help provide that screen to the neighboring residents. And additionally, on the south side, there's a condition of approval to evaluate the extension of that berm so that it comes all the way to that secondary access drive aisle here, so that that loading dock and shipping yard is adequately screened from Creek Road.
Liz, how tall is that berm that's by the parking lot and
Over here?
between, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, on kind of the southwest side, it's roughly 4 feet taller than the parking lot. The parking lot is kind of recessed into the site, and so the landscaping and berming there will be roughly 4 feet tall, and then it starts to taper down kind of midway through the parking lot and up to 0 kind of at the northwest side.
Okay. So the thought process is to have it be an even 4 feet all the way through?
Yes.
Okay.
So they do have some substantial work to put into their landscape plan as they go into final to make sure that they're meeting our code for quantities. And that'll be a big item into the final submittal. Here are a few cross sections. So this shows kind of that recession of the parking lot compared to kind of the berm and vegetation on the west side here, and where 4880 Creek Road, or the existing residential, is to the west there. So there is a nice dip there, but on the northwest side is where it kind of tapers and evens out. And then on the north to south cross-section here, they're showing roughly a 6-foot berm on that south side, which will provide a good amount of screening, and then proposed vegetation on top of that from the loading dock area. So, and then another comment received during concept plan was making sure that they provide for pedestrian gathering places on their site, much like some neighboring industrial users have provided some repose areas for their employees to take advantage of. EDCO has also proposed a couple amenity opportunities, such as a patio kind of on that western side adjacent to their front entrance, and then also a pedestrian loop, paved trail around the building that would basically follow the front of the building, the fire lane around the building, and then back out to Creek Road. So it does provide a full looping opportunity for employees, which they can then connect into the trail that will ultimately be extended on Creek Road too. The building design is pretty much the same as what was shown during concept. It'll be primarily concrete panels with some ribbed detailing, and then some significant glass area on the front side or the main entrance of the building. And then some metal accent panels that'll help accentuate the main entrance and provide a little bit of color around the building too. And they do meet our industrial ordinance for building design and materials with what they're proposing. So just to reiterate a few things that they have to work on for final, parking, they need to show 29 more stalls to meet the ultimate needs of the site. Working on their landscape and grading plans to meet all landscaping requirements for the site in all categories. And then extension of berming and landscaping both on the northwest side and on the south side. And then working on their final plat to ensure that they are providing adequate right-of-way needs for Creek Road and the improvements planned there, and then coordinating with Carver County on any right-of-way needs from Engler Boulevard. In addition, they need to show an easement on the west edge for the future trunk sewer extension along the west side of the property, which would help serve kind of the north side of Engler Boulevard and when that area is ready for development. And then also finalizing their wetland mitigation and impact plan as a part of that final submittal. So with that, we have two motions that we're requesting this evening. One motion to adopt resolution number 2025-27, which is approving the preliminary site and building plan and preliminary plat for EDCO on Creek Road, and then based on the conditions that are listed within that document, and then a motion to adopt ordinance number 1060, approving the rezoning from RR2 to Planned Industrial District, PID 12, based on that ordinance, that draft ordinance. Happy to answer any questions. We do have the representatives here from EDCO and their design team too.
Any questions for Liz or staff? Quick question about road improvements. So this is tied in with that. Will it be something that coincides with the building of it or after it's done, or what's?
It'll be in conjunction with when the building's actually being built.
Okay.
So.
Does that put a stress on the construction vehicles getting in and out of the site?
No, it shouldn't really. Because we also, we're gonna more than likely be under construction at the same time with our municipal service building.
Yeah.
And that road is gonna be improved in front of that site as well. So, part of that construction project is gonna be making sure that there's construction access into the site, which for their site likely is gonna come off of Engler as opposed to Creek Road during the construction. For us, it's probably gonna come off of Creek Boulevard, the one that goes north-south there. Yeah, the sewer extension, utility extension, road extension stuff will all be happening sort of simultaneous to when buildings are being constructed out there.
Okay. Anybody have questions for staff otherwise? I just had a quick question for the applicant. If you anybody want to come on up? Hello.
Looks like
it's
they
you.
left you to walk right up there.
Yeah.
I wore the
You're wearing the name
EDCO,
badge.
the EDCO wear, so I get nominated to speak.
Wonderful. Well, go ahead and state your name for the record, of course.
I'm John Lewis, and I'm the CEO of EDCO Products.
Thank you for being here, John.
My pleasure.
Just a quick question. Your operations, are they like 24 hours a day, or is it?
Primarily, it's one shift.
Okay.
So the bulk of our office, well, our entire office staff just works a normal day shift. Most of our manufacturing works a day shift. We do have a small second shift distribution operation.
Okay.
So
Wonderful.
we just prepare loads for the following day at night. So, yeah, but it's primarily a daytime operation with, I think we planned on about a second shift of about 20 folks for the evening shift, which is, again, it's not an overnight shift, it's an evening shift.
Sure, just curious about how much,
Yep.
traffic
Yep. So
and things.
traffic would primarily be during the day.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you for clarifying that for me.
You bet.
So,
You bet.
that was my only question for you.
All right.
I mean,
Thanks for
let's-
choosing,
let's-
I was just gonna say, thanks for choosing Chaska.
Yeah,
We're very excited about Chaska. Again, as we mentioned at the concept stage, we think it's a perfect fit for our business. It's a great site, it's a great community. You guys and your staff has been exceedingly helpful to us as we plan the project, so we're really excited about it.
well, yeah, I mean, it's fun to talk about an industrial building being beautiful, right? But looking at the plans come into shape and just see how wonderful the building looks and all the thoughtfulness, we're excited to have you here in
Great,
Chaska. So
appreciate that.
thank you for
Thank you.
choosing us.
All right.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Otherwise, I know we've evaluated this. Things are, like I said, taking more form, but
Yeah, I mean, it's a good-looking plan. I like the things to work on. It's refreshing sometimes when you have these spaces with not a lot of neighbors, some neighbors, which we're listening to, but it's a lot easier when things are just kind of set up there and it's kind of planned. And, I like to look at the building. It's exciting, and I echo the thoughts, welcome to Chaska, and, excited to see it get built out there, so.
and I echo those comments and say, the berming, helps, mitigate that disruption to the one existing neighbor there on Creek Road. And it's exciting to see the infrastructure underneath the road get redone, so as part of this, so.
Yeah, if you haven't driven on
Oh,
Creek
I
Road
have.
lately,
It's
it
rough.
is
Yeah,
not nice.
It is.
I decided last week I was gonna take a drive out there. I hadn't been out there for a while. It's not good.
No,
So-
it's pretty hard on the car,
Yeah.
so, no, that is exciting as part of this. Well, with that, I would entertain, let's see, we have got two motions to make here, and the first one is to, I think,
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2025-27. Is that, no, the ordinance is separate, okay.
Yep.
Second that.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Hatfield and a second from Councilmember Gra. Any other discussions? Otherwise, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes. And then we have another motion to adopt ordinance number 1060, approving the rezoning of rural residents R2 to planned industrial development PID-12.
Motion to adopt ordinance number 1060.
Awesome, we got a motion from.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilmember Penish and a second from Councilmember Shevlin. And any other discussions on that? Otherwise, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that carries as well. So that's adopted. Congratulations. We will see you
you.
again. Yes. Hopefully you guys don't get rained on too hard out there.
It is pouring.
So, all right, moving right along on the agenda. The next up is bills. Does anybody have a question on a bill? Don't all jump in at the same time, I mean.
I did not have any this
Okay.
time.
All right, well, I would.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Okay. Got a motion from Councilmember Hatfield,
Second?
and a second from Councilmember Benish. All right, otherwise, let's go ahead and call roll.
Councilmember Hatfield.
Yes.
Councilmember Benish.
Yes.
Councilmember Shevlin.
Yes.
Councilmember Gra.
Aye.
Mayor Hubbard.
Aye. All right, bills are paid. All right, that moves us along to other business. I don't know where I started last time. Let's start with Councilmember Gra.
I just had a question. We're talking a couple things that were just made me think of it. So I find myself, because I confessed last time I was here that I forget to go on Savannah Way and Creek Road, and I can cut through easier. I assume that like the roundabout on Savannah Way there, it still needs another layer. And
Yeah.
that's why like you take the roundabout, there's all these
It's got
weird
the layers.
patches.
Yep.
Because I'm assuming it puddled and, okay. I was just, because it's like nice new road, you're like, this doesn't look like a nice new road, that section. So I was just curious. That's a little bit, like I said, I always find myself on 212 going, oh, I could have just taken Savannah Way, right? But it'll get programmed into my head. it's a little fuzzy in my head because I missed our last meeting. I think we had our Parkathon, what do we call it?
Parkapalooza.
Parkapalooza, thank you. Which if you're not sure what the Parkapalooza was, right, it was well, I got just the end of it. The council kind of came on the end of it, but all-day event with the planners for the Southwest Chaska Park, and kind of put some in. It was really cool because I just thought it was a neat plan, bringing all the city groups together, all the individuals that would touch it, and get their feedback on those plans. And then we provide feedback, which we had plenty of feedback. No, it's good. It's just exciting to see that come together, and the public will be really excited when we start getting boards up and getting some of our events in the city. Lots of fun ideas. Some will make the final thing. Some will be like, oh, that's a super dream cool way if money wasn't an object or anything like that. But yeah, it was just a good event to kind of see what that space would look. I don't go a day probably if I'm outside and my neighbors catch me when I get asked about that development of that space. I think people are really excited. The houses keep going up in that area, so there will be a demand. And I think even more important and really more exciting is really the destination that place can be, because it is meant to be a destination. It's a community park, not just a neighborhood park, right? And so I think it's exciting to kind of see what those opportunities. I continue to travel the ball fields of greater Minnesota here, and I've spent a lot of time at Ham Lake this weekend, and these fields will be nicer than Ham Lake, I can tell you that. No offense, Ham Lake, but it was in the
That's because the weather will always be good here.
Yeah, that's true. It was not a good weekend for baseball. So at that.
One thing I'll point out with the park plan, so we'll have 3 plans that end up being sort of the ones that go back out to the public. And we're not gonna ask people to say, which plan do you like the most? We're gonna be asking what components of the plans that you like the most so that we can bring them together. Because it's hard to look at it and say, well, I like everything in that plan.
And that's what we kind of experienced at
Yeah.
Parkapalooza, was looking at them. I had like a favorite, and then as we went through them, I was like, I like a little bit of each.
Yeah.
And we had more than 3, so.
Yep, so
Yeah.
that's gonna be the plan. And we'll have multiple ways to do that. We're really gonna focus on making sure that, the 2 big public events will be Fire and Ice and then River City Days, to be able to talk with people through that. And then there'll be also some other engagement opportunities for people to be able to tie into or comment on those. But the one thing I thought was really interesting going through that process is, all of them had different elements, but they all were sort of designed the same.
The layout
The
kind of
layout.
evolved,
And
right?
it made you realize how important it is to understand the topography of the land, because you could definitely see as they put it together where certain elements really should be because of the topography of the land. So even though each plan has different elements in it, all of them have very similar sort of layout schemes, which I thought, to me, really speaks to their knowledge of that property.
So did they draw right on site?
They drew it all that day.
I would have loved
Yeah,
to
I
have
wish I
seen
had that
in
talent.
action.
It's pretty impressive.
Because, looking at those
Yeah.
plans and seeing them done, because
Mm-hmm.
that was when we got to kind of take our look at them, it was like, were these kind of already roughed in the
No, they
details?
started
Or were
with-
they,
they
but that
started
is
with-
amazing
they
that
started with nothing.
with a blank piece of paper.
Yeah.
Put me to
And I think it's
shame.
cool since we're just on the topic, that they brought in, like, from around the country for like their initial ones that they did, where they were just kind of like, these are park people that design parks from all over the country for Confluence that came in to have input on our park, which is just really cool to me.
Well, and it's quite frankly, it's serendipitous, because they were gonna be doing that anyway. Our project just happened to be the project that they're focusing on now, so we got the benefit of basically their company's retreat.
Wow.
So,
That was very cool.
yep.
Yeah, it was really exciting to see what came about.
I was just perusing because I couldn't figure. So I'll ask the question because I couldn't find the details. Can you please provide the information about Memorial Day events in the city of Chaska?
Yes.
I was gonna find it, and I couldn't find it, I'm like, I'll just ask the question, and then we'll word it that way.
Well, all the veterans go around to each of the cemeteries early on in the day. And then they all get back here right outside the mill on Pine Street at about 9:15. And about 9:30 is when they all line up and they do a short parade over to Veterans Park. 10 o'clock, then they have their ceremony that they have, and they always have a great speaker with it. And then right after that, then they use the shelter building to have refreshments and things like that that they are open to the public. So it's really well done.
Yeah, I make my point to try to get there and just kind of observe people. And yeah, I would echo the speakers are always good. It's always a good job. Let's hope it's good weather. Otherwise, it gets a little tight inside when we have to move it inside. But
I remember one year with when I was with the Cub Scouts and us running in with hail pounding down. That was so. There has been those days, which Memorial Days sometimes can be notorious for weather. But I think this year's actually going to be nice.
It's supposed to be, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and so with that, as this weekend comes up, keep in mind why you have the Monday off and have that celebration, and make also I just remind people make good choices. Right, it's a busy weekend. I always enjoy the comical but not so comical posts like, jail's closed on Monday, so if you find yourself in here, you're not getting any help till Tuesday, right? So
You're not getting any help if you go over the weekend until Tuesday.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not just Monday.
Yeah, make good choices. Make
You
good
know, you better be
choices,
careful.
friends, right?
Don't-
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just think it's a good time to remember why we have that day off and the individuals and what it really means. And that ceremony for me has been really kind of that good reminder, because you get caught up with life, and so it's always been a good ceremony to go to. So I believe that is all I have.
And one real quick thing I'll mention, there was a couple of us from Rotary that went over to the VFW meeting a week ago, and we were talking about the Miracle League Park, but their old commander, Dale, is it Hookabeen? It's Larry Hokanen's dad. Used to be the commander at the VFW, and we were talking about park development, and he said, I don't worry about you guys with park development. He goes, look at how Veterans Park turned out. He goes, I trust that you guys are going to do it right and stuff. So I thought that was a nice compliment from them, and everybody sort of shook their head and stuff. That that Veterans Park is a really nice place to have that ceremony over there.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I agree that we did that park. I was on the park board when we went through that. Because you do go through cities and locations, and a lot of cities have a veterans park and a memorial, and some are better well planned than others. I don't even know what city it is, but it's on 212. And I always see it, and it's just kind of off on the side of 212, and you just kind of drive by. You never see anybody there. You never see anything, and it's just kind of like,
Norwood.
yeah,
Norwood.
that's the one.
That's the one. And it's just like, okay.
Just know what he's talking about.
I mean, you put it up, it's there, but it's just like, it wasn't, I mean, it's just interesting, because, yeah. So I echo that statement. We certainly did it right. And it wasn't me on the park board, I promise you that. So that is all I have, Mayor.
All right. Councilwoman Shevlin.
I don't have a lot. I think Taste of Chaska was last week, if I recall. And it was, I hear, a great success. I was in San Diego for work, but my kids went, and everybody said how fun it was, and they saw all their friends, supposedly.
Yeah, it's like
furry friends included. But
off the
it sounded
summer.
like it was a really nice start to the summer and a great use of the, wonderful space we have at Fireman's Park. So I'm really excited as we look forward to Southwest Chaska and City Square West, what kind of events we can hold similar to that in those spaces for our community.
Yeah.
And other than that, I really don't have anything either. It's
All right. All right. The weather was good for Taste of
Yes.
Chaska. Moving along. Josh, Councilman Benish.
I will echo Councilmember Graw's statement on make good decisions this weekend. As somebody who works with people who often find themselves in precarious situations, yeah, this is a bad weekend to do something that's not smart. So make good decisions. In addition, today is the start of EMS week nationally. So if you see a paramedic, an EMT, or an emergency medical dispatcher, any of those people in the line that are there medically for you as a first responder, reach out and say thanks if you can, so.
Give them a high five.
Thank you for
Yeah.
all your service.
No,
Yeah,
thanks.
thank you, Josh, for
You're
your
welcome.
service.
So, yeah, that's all I've got.
All right. Councilmember Hatfield.
All right, well, you know me, I always have a lot.
Yeah.
Count on it.
You can count on it,
Page 1.
right?
Dear Doug.
I was just gonna, the one thing we didn't mention on Park Palooza was just how much I appreciated, it was before council and park board got there, but just all the participation from city staff on that. And it's so smart to bring, you don't think about this, but bringing in all the different departments, because truly so many of our departments touch when you're building a new park, so many things, but, you know, building maintenance and public works, parks team, and finance, emergency services, literally everything comes into play. So thank you to all of them for their participation in that, because that's really, really important that we work together cohesively. So just wanted to mention that about Parkapalooza. And then Taste of Chaska was great to see so many businesses there. So it was a lot of food, new food vendors like Southern
Edible
Social.
India was there.
Edible
and-
India,
yes,
like
yep.
so many of the new restaurants in town had booths, and then along just with a bunch of businesses as well, so that was great to see. Up on a rooftop, this is the first year I didn't have time to stop down by because I had a wedding, but
Cold.
it was cold at the wedding, I was at too. That's always a great event, and I'll still jump online and make my Special Olympics donation because that's always the most important piece. But I always really appreciate the last couple of years have been with Eden Prairie Police because they don't have a Duncan, and so just the coming together to support a good cause and all of that. And I noticed that the fire department was willing to put the chief and the llama cutout board on the rooftop safely. I thought that was nice that our fire department got involved too, Unsung Heroes doing that for us. So just another good event, and I appreciate that we do that and support a Special Olympics.
Does Eden Prairie have a llama?
I don't know, do we have a llama?
We did.
I guess it was our chief with the llama, so we'll wait for next year when their chief gets a picture with a llama.
Which I got to take the chief's picture below the picture of him with the llama, which was kind of fun.
Oh, I was like, wait, what did you do? Now that we're kicking off summer, in June, the Clayhole concert series starts, so I saw that was online with all the different concerts, kid concerts, I guess adult concerts, a few concerts in Carver, so definitely check out that lineup, it looks fantastic. So there was that, and then, what do I want to talk about next? Southwest Transit, lots of summer concerts or summer festivals or things that you can ride Southwest Transit to. So Post Malone tomorrow night, you could jump on a Southwest Transit bus. That is the only way I recommend getting to a concert. So definitely do that. But they go to all over. They went to Art Whirl, they go to Pride, the Yacht Club, Taste of Minnesota, State Fair, Renfest, Dragon Boat Festival, Timberwolves, Twins, Vikings, Gophers, all of that. So highly recommend using Southwest Shuttle for events to get around. And then I think, Bountiful Basket night at the Cubs game is tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Hopefully it doesn't get rained out. It might.
It's like a 100% chance of rain.
I know. I just feel bad because isn't their last, was it the last one or the one before that rained out?
One before it,
The police night got rained out.
Yeah.
So, just keep crossing our fingers. And then, the last thing I want to mention is, at our last Downtown Business Alliance meeting, really exciting, a group of students from the U of M, I can't remember what the business.
Capstone.
Well, I was gonna say Capstone, but the exact business school they're in, that doesn't matter.
Carlson?
Carlson.
The Humphrey, thank you. It is the Humphrey, that's why I knew it wasn't. So they presented their capstone project to the Downtown Business Alliance with everything that was involved in just about activating our paseos. And they worked so hard on that. They did a lot of interviews. At the end, I gave them more work to do by recommending more interviews. And they did it just so willfully and great. And it was just a really good group of students that had some really good ideas, like using our electrical boxes. I don't know how our electric team feels about this, but as art, as to make it prettier down there, like get some art on it. and that could be something that could enhance downtown. Like, they gave way more ideas than that, but that was one that stood out as like really creative and I never thought of. So I'm excited to see their final project. That was their presentation to the Downtown Business Alliance. They were wrapping up their final full actual like paper and everything. I think they're gonna send that over if they have not already. So I'm excited to see that. And then they graduating or have graduated at this point now. It's been a couple weeks, but I just want to thank that group of students. They worked really hard on it. It was great to have staff attract that group. I think it was Julie or you, Julie, that connected with the U on getting them here to do that. And I just really appreciate it. And it kind of goes well with all the work that the Music Camp group is doing, looking at the downtown area and how we can activate it more. So it's just really exciting. And then I also want to thank all the businesses that have been coming. That meeting for a long time was the same 5 people, which is great. They were really, really invested in downtown, but there's been a lot more business owners coming to that meeting lately, which has been just fantastic, and I can't thank them enough. So yeah, I just wanted to give that quick update as well about the Downtown Business Alliance meeting, and Mary, you may have more to say about it, but wanted to touch on that. So that's all I had.
Yeah, I mean, there's good energy coming out of
Yeah.
that meeting, and it was great to see the presentation, and see the feedback, and see other people kind of look at something and be able to lend, their perspective and kind of how can we, best use these tools now that we have them. So that's exciting. And I hear other people kind of, residents and business owners say that there is just like a different energy and a different vibe going downtown. So people are seeing it, people are feeling it, and that's really exciting too, because I think that some of that narrative can kind of get lost in the shuffle. So to kind of hear that being elevated up is always a goal when it comes to work. Elise, do you have anything?
I do not have anything.
Nate?
I don't have anything.
Christoph? Matt?
The only thing I was gonna mention, I put in, we have we have 5 Mondays in June. And so I put in here that we may not have a meeting on the last Monday in June, but we'll probably have a work session to sort of kick off budget season, because that starts, your favorite. But I was sort of thinking, so the 4th of July is on a Friday, and the 7th is a Monday. We could have like a meeting to get all of our stuff done on that 5th Monday of the month, and maybe have the 7th off instead. Would that be preferable to people?
If staff is ready, I would
Yeah, I
prefer it.
mean,
That's my big
Yeah,
family
if staff
reunion
could do
weekend.
it.
I will be tired.
Yeah.
But if that
Yeah,
works for staff.
Yeah, I mean, it'd work for us. I
favor.
mean,
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
let's do
Whatever you
that.
wanna do.
all right.
Let's do that.
That was Elise's idea, by the way.
We shouldn't be surprised, right?
Yeah.
Is that,
That's all.
that's all?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
All the construction that's going on Bavaria and I don't know, it seems like it's going on
Engler?
everywhere. But it's backing up 41 greatly when you go either way, especially when the times school gets out. And so is there any thought of like making just during the construction season, the lane that is only to turn, if you're going south on 41, past the schools there, everybody's trying to turn into that school and the line goes, I mean, literally back up to the highway. So if we made that second lane on 41 a straight lane.
Well, the
for
good
time
news is
being.
you won't have to worry about that in 2 weeks.
I was gonna say, probably should mention.
41's gonna be completely closed.
True.
Yep.
Which,
But it's not right there, is it, in front of the school? I thought it was south of the school.
No, it'll be closed all through that area.
closing.
Yes, yep. So,
Okay,
Guess what? You get to find a new way to downtown.
I do.
so,
Should I suggest Savannah Way? It's a great opportunity.
That is really
Trust
going to
me,
be.
I've lived my
I
last
literally live a block away.
4 or
Yeah.
5 weeks like this.
Okay.
yeah, no, it's.
It's just like, I was trying to turn left today, and the stoplight already is kind of a pain. But then when you've got all that school traffic, they back up so far that you can't ever get out even on a green light because it's so backed up. So I snuck around and went down the wrong lane and then pulled back over quickly because they were all trying to turn into the school. So there's plenty of room to sneak in, and I thought, well, maybe we could but
Yeah, the one thing because I actually drop off my son at Middle School West, and to be honest, the one thing I don't understand when I get down there is why everybody's trying to turn into that north entrance.
thank you.
Because if you just go down just a little bit further down to Engler, it's so much easier to turn in.
I totally agree, down by the
of
community
Engler,
center,
so I
yeah.
always go all the way down there.
Everybody goes by that track entrance right there, and it
Yeah.
literally just backs up all the way to 212.
Yeah, I haven't quite figured it out, but the other place we're seeing significant backups in the morning is on Hunter Mark.
Yes.
So that's, but I will say that I personally, as terrible as having 41 closed there is going to be, I actually think it's going to be a little bit easier having Bavaria and Audubon open, because now we're able to take two sides of the city, where right now the whole entire west half of the city has to get over to 41, and that's what's making Hunter Mark so terrible. And also with schools being out, the backups on Hunter Mark mainly are because of Southwest Christian and everybody having to come from the north as opposed to come from the south.
I didn't
So
even think about
I think within 2 weeks, I think you're gonna see things lighten up a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and then school traffic just won't be an issue,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because of the summer. I'll echo on that note, just about, it's change of season, and we're no longer in our winter driving habits. Sometimes you kind of get a little bit complacent when you're driving, and you're not always paying attention. And just to be really mindful of your surroundings and paying attention, because I almost got run over by a car on Hunter Mark crossing it on Sunday. So,
walking?
Yep, I was walking, and I was in the crosswalk, and the other lane stopped for me. And as I was going to get into the other side, the cars that were coming, I thought, oh, they're gonna slow down.
Oh, gee.
Oh, almost not. So I had to jump out of the way, and she stopped, and then she looked a little frazzled, and I thought, you're probably on your phone. Younger driver. So just paying attention, I think, it goes a long way. And yeah, I mean, I guess leading on into that, we will have road changes coming up here. So what's the initial weather dependent, because we're having some rain this week, so that might change things, but.
June 7th is supposed to be the date that things switch over. We've been hearing rumblings that they may not meet that date.
That's good, though, because that means school will be out then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I don't think they're weather-related delays. They had some issues with the water main, getting that in. And now they're able to just start on some of the roundabout work. But they do have like the curb and gutter
Yeah.
going in all the way up the median there.
Oh, I
so
know.
it's going in, so it's coming along.
Yeah, I couldn't get out of my neighborhood this morning. So that was fun.
You didn't need to leave.
I just, didn't need to leave. It was like the one morning I was running late with Ethan. But no, yeah, and they're starting to do the resurfacing as well. So, all right. We talked about Parkapalooza. That was wonderful. We talked about Taste of Chaska. One thing I'd like to add about Taste of Chaska was, I mean, it was such a gorgeous evening. They couldn't have planned that better weather-wise, because like the next day was completely different. But with that, I read on the Carver County local news that they've estimated over 4,000 attendees.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty huge.
Spectacular.
Yeah,
And so
that's
it's really
starting to
nice
get
to
fire and
see.
ice type of size.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty, it didn't feel like it was 4,000 people, because I was there probably for, I don't know, primary amount of time, but it was really nice. And it was nice, as Councilmember Hatfield said, the amount of booths that were there, and the kind of just the logistics of the booths and the music, and so everything was really well laid out. So thank you to our Southwest Chamber for hosting that event, and our city, because I know we put in a lot of work and effort into it as well, with some of our staff and all the other sponsors that took part of that. I was able, so my son wanted to go swimming, which I never did ask him how cold it was, but he enjoyed it. And he was over there, and so I spent a chunk of the time over by the playground, and I happened to meet a really nice family from LeSueur that were here, and they used to live in Chaska many years ago up in Jonathan, but she said, we're here for an appointment, and we just happened to be here, and this is so great that this event was happening, and she just expressed her love and for Chaska, and that she wished that she could still live here and everything. So they were fans. So it's always fun when you can meet fans. That's, other than, Memorial Day, we've all talked about making good decisions. Oh, on that note, my husband, who works for the Carver County Detention Center, was part of a recognition night last week. He was part of a team that had, they had gotten a citation for assisting in saving someone's life. And so he was one of the award recipients, but there were other people there. But one of the folks that was there was a resident from Chaska. And he was, I did not realize that this gentleman was the one that assisted the sheriff when the incident at Fleet Farm happened. And so that was a Chaska resident. I unfortunately didn't have an opportunity to meet him before he left, but it was really nice to see him get an award, this gentleman. But it was also nice to see that the young woman that was the victim of that attack be there and be present and see that she was doing well and doing okay, physically for the most part. So I just figured that was kind of nice to add in. But that is it for that. Otherwise, Memorial Day, just recognizing, as Councilmember Gross said, thanking our veterans and the commitment and the ultimate sacrifice that they make for all of us to have freedom in this country. June 2nd is our next meeting, and that's all that I've got. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Second. Motion by Councilmember Shevlin, second by Councilmember Benish. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.